racist?
We're gonna forget right where we were at, though. But okay,
we'll come back.
fine.
Can you be racist towards white people?
You can yes, you can discriminate against them based on the color of their skin. However, like there's
Okay, what's your definition of racism?
Systematic disadvantages to a certain population or group based on their ethnic or national identity.
Okay.
I don't understand what's so painful about that.
So no, you can't be racist towards white people.
No, I said you can be racist towards them, but it'll never be in the same
It won't be
extent.
as bad.
It's like you can commit an act of racism, but it's not like.
There's no okay.
Okay.
Is there?
It's like what I was saying with sexism. If the group that is perpetuating the action is not in power, then it doesn't make sense.
Can you be? Can Asian people be racist towards black people?
Yes.
Can black people be racist towards Asian people?
Yes, but less so.
That's interesting. Okay.
Because I'd say that the Black American experience is very unique, whereas Asian people who experience racism, a lot of them are immigrants
Can black people be
and not
racist towards Native
Everybody's
Americans?
experience is unique.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, Japanese Americans were in internment camps.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Okay.
Yeah. But what about that? Like.
Okay, here, let's get everybody's answers.
I'm saying that
Hold on,
societally, there's been a group that has experienced the most racism.
Can you be racist towards white people?
The most?
Hold
Yes.
on. Go
In
ahead.
America.
Go ahead.
Yes, you can make racist remarks.
No. Can you be racist towards white people?
I don't know. This is like something that I really can't really speak on because I'm obviously just uneducated and I don't really want to put myself in that position.
Well,
I'm just like,
can you be racist towards Asian people?
yes, it happens every day.
Can you be racist towards black people?
It happens every day.
Can you be racist towards Latinos?
It happens every day.
Can you be racist towards Native Americans?
It happens every day. You're
Can you
asking
be
things that
racist?
happen
Can
all
you be
the time.
racist towards white people?
Like, I guess, yes, in a sense you can. You can be.
Why are you so quick to affirmatively answer all those other questions? But when it comes to
Because
racism towards white people, you're incapable of simply answering the question.
Because I don't know the white experience. I don't know.
Well, are you Latina?
Yes.
Are you Asian?
No.
Are you black?
No.
Are you Native American?
No.
So why were you able to answer on behalf of those other races?
Because it happens every day. I've seen it personally happen.
What if I told you racism happened against white people every day? Would that sway you?
Well, then I can't deny something that's a fact. If it's happening, then how can I deny it?
Okay, well then it's happening, so you don't deny it, right?
Okay, there
Okay,
you go.
great.
Okay. So can you be sexist towards men?
If it's happening, yes.
If I don't really understand the
Like
answer to
if
that.
that's what's going on and people are being sexist towards men, then yes. If people are belittling them, then yes. But at the same time, I do agree with her statement that like if you're the majority, it doesn't hit as hard. Yes, it is still
the majority.
It's still sexist, it's still racist, it's still whatever it may be, but it doesn't hit as hard if you are the majority.
Well, men
you have
aren't
the power.
majority. Oh, stay safe in the chat. Yo, thank you for the big raid, man. We're having a heated conversation about sexism and racism and... oh, yeah, really quick. Yo, I hope you had a good stream.
But
Anyways,
yeah,
moving on.
Men can experience sexism.
Well, hold on. We'll get to you.
White people
Wait, so,
can
okay.
experience racism.
I don't know if you fully gave your answer. Can you be sexist towards men?
Yes.
Wait, do you actually believe that, though, or are you just kind of like, all right, move on?
I mean, why? Oh, yes, sure. Go on.
Wait, yeah, sure to the question I just asked you, or yeah, sure, you can be
I mean,
racist
there's
with them?
no point in giving my opinion when you're just going to go to the point that you want. You know what I mean?
So what is your opinion? I won't even debate you. I'll hear your opinion, and then I'll move on to the next person. I won't even debate you.
But I've already said that I don't know.
Okay, that's fine.
Grid 1 Motorsports donated $200.
Yeah, that's a good point.
White people are the minority
wait.
in the world. Some of my ancestors came over as indentured servants. Do you know what that means? You kids' understanding of history and culture is pathetic.
Oh, Some of my ancestors came over and, well, the originating term of slave comes from
Slavic.
white people were the OG slaves, I think. Anyways, Grid One Motorsports, thank you. Really quick, we're going to continue on this thread. Kyle Kelsey, dude, I don't know if you're still watching. I need to tell you something. Kyle, I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. You super chatted last show, I believe, or a show before. I think it was last show. Yeah, and I missed it. I'm very sorry. Normally, we're very good with making sure we get every single Streamlabs message, every single super chat. We missed one of yours. If you want to DM me on Instagram at whatever, we will. If you want to just submit a message that I'll just treat as a super chat, we'll do that. I apologize, Kyle, that we missed your super chat last show. He says the annoying blondie and the annoying 19-year-old makes me want to turn on channel 1-9, listen to Mud Duck out in the desert, stay safe on those highways and byways. Okay. Thank you, Kyle Kelsey. Shoot me a DM on Instagram. We'll get it. We'll get you squared away. Okay. We'll get the rest of the super chats a little bit later on. So can you be sexist towards men?
For the sexist and racist question, I think answers both is yes.
Okay.
Yes.
To both?
Yes.
Yes to both.
Yes, obviously.
Yes.
Yes and yes.
Okay. All right. So Renee's a little bit of an outlier here with her answer.
Well, I'd say there's personal instances of racism and sexism, and there's, as a whole, generally in society, racism and sexism. They're phenomenons that we experience
let me ask you a
every
question.
day.
So if there were hiring practices that are put in place by corporations that said to deprioritize white men in hiring and to hire people who are part of quote unquote minority groups, somehow women are included in, I don't know how that works, but to prioritize hiring women and hiring people of color, would that be evidence of racism or sexism against white men?
It goes against the Civil Rights Act, I believe, right? Or they're discriminating for employment.
But you are familiar with like DEI practices and
yeah,
affirmative
DEI
action?
and affirmative action, but
Which
you can't do that.
Which deprioritizes hiring
but it's
white
illegal.
men.
It's illegal to not hire them on the basis
Doesn't stop
of
it from
race.
happening.
I would say that is
hold
an
on.
experience of
Just
racism.
to be clear, okay.
Daily Dreaming 88 donated $200. Nothing is ever a one-way street. Everyone can experience racism or sexism. You don't have to be white to realize this. You don't have to be a murderer to know murder is real or wrong. Happens to all.
Yo, Daily Dreaming, thank you, man. Appreciate your patronage. Well put. Wait, so you said, well, it's illegal. Well, isn't it illegal to pay men and women different wages?
Yeah.
So are you conceding like you don't believe in the wage gap then?
I believe in it. I'd never said that I didn't believe what you.
But I thought it's illegal.
Happened.
It's illegal, so it can't possibly happen.
Okay,
right?
it can still happen.
Okay.
Definitely. And I'm sure that there have been hiring practices against white people put into place for certain corporations, but for many other corporations, they exclusively hire people they already know.
So nepotism?
That makes
What's that have to do with race?
It does, because people feel comfortable around their own race. Just like maybe an Asian company would only want to more so hire Asian employees, they feel comfortable around their own race.
My question is...
understand that. I'm just saying systematically over time, because white people have been in such a higher place of power, they've been able to do that and connect with their communities in a more comprehensive way than other races.
Why should we defer to the definition of racism being only institutional authority rather than defer to a definition of
I didn't
racism?
defer to either one. I acknowledged both of their existence, and I said
so if
I delineated one of them, and I conceded that the other one does exist.
Then if the other form of racism exists, aren't people just as capable, black, white, whatever, of being just as racist as the next person?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll concede that. But I'm just saying I don't want that to be used to belittle or demean like how much more I think systematic oppression is impactful versus these one-off acts of discrimination. Although they are bad, and obviously I don't condone that.
Yeah, but how do you quantify systemic oppression?
You don't have to quantify it. You can look at the historical examples. You can look at laws.
That would be quantifying it.
It would be quantifying if you looked at the data. There's statistics.
Yeah, so how would we quantify And by what methodology would you use to quantify whether or not something was systemic racism or not?
That's not a quantifiable thing. You'd have to use qualitative and quantifiable
Okay,
factors.
what qualitative and quantitative factors would you use?
Well, you'd probably have to do some poll research.
But that would just be, if you're polling, that would just be asking people how they felt, essentially, right?
Yeah, but isn't that what we're all doing? Aren't you just asking me how I feel?
No, I'm asking you for your opinion, and if it's based around objective fact instead of feelings, in fact.
Oh, whoa. Facts over feelings. Well, I told you that both exist. I don't have a problem with
Yeah, I know,
admitting
but
that.
so back to this. How would you go about trying to figure out how you would quantify what is systemic racism? Because, like, for instance, you'd
It's
have
not
to...
quantifiable.
It's not quantifiable. So
It's just something
so
that
it's
we
just
know
a-
happened
so it's just a
historically.
feeling.
If you go to history
Well,
classes
if it's
or
not
political science
quantifiable,
classes,
right, and it's not empirical, then how is it anything other than a feeling?
you said the thing about the patriarchy protecting women earlier, and you brought up the example of the Byzantine Empire. Is that anything more than just a feeling? There's no quantifiable evidence
Yeah,
in
but
that.
I wasn't looking for something which was quantified then. We were giving an
I'm
example.
not looking at something that's quantified either. What unit would you even use to quantify
I don't know, I'm
systematic
asking
racism?
you. It's your definition.
Yeah, okay, money, years incarcerated, that kind of thing. There you go.
So if you're just using years incarcerated, though. you
Okay,
would-
here we go. Oh, higher crime rate. There you go.
And the problem with that is?
I just already know what argument you're going to make, so I don't know why you're talking with me.
I'm guessing you have a great counter for it.
What's the actual definition? Like, why aren't we pulling up actual definitions of words and then asking people's opinions
Well,
instead
because
of going
people
on
can
feelings?
come up with whatever definition for whatever thing they want.
So
and
why
there's
not just pull up the real definition?
There's no such thing as a
Do you
real
think that
definition.
slavery had zero lasting
Phil-
impact? Like, do
philosophy
you think they
doesn't-
just, after Reconstruction, they
Stop.
just made
It's
that
philosophy.
it
I
perfect?
have to answer one question
Okay,
at a
but can you
time.
answer mine
As
first?
soon as I'm done
Can
answering
you answer
yours,
mine first?
Just give me 1 second. Calm down, lady.
I'm just acting like he does.
Feisty, feisty.
I mean, you wouldn't let her talk for like 5 minutes.
Because I was already
over
in the
here.
middle of having a debate.
And we're in the middle of having a debate.
No,
you
I
can't
was in
answer
the
me?
middle of having a debate with her. And you just went, ah. But fine. My attention's all focused on you. What did you want?
I asked a question.
What was the question?
Loki, I forgot.
Great.
can go
So
ahead.
back to this. Now that you forgot your question, just saying that anybody come up with a definition of anything. What makes this a cup? That's just agreed upon, or couldn't we call it bubble gum?
Oh, I remember my
I
question.
mean, but then that throws every argument that you've put on the table out the
No,
door this
not if
entire
a person
time.
comes up with a definition. They might have a definition which deviates from whatever you find in the
There
dictionary.
is 2 + 2 = 4.
Yes,
like,
I
every
agree.
time.
Always.
So
But
someone
that's a
can feel like
metaphysical
it-
truth, not a socially constructed one.
Yeah, but what makes that a cup is metaphysical. It's physical. It's not social.
The
So-
glass is real. The beer inside the glass is real. What makes it a cup? What makes it that?
It's literally a cup, like it was made by a glass maker.
What
Like
makes it not a saucer?
Epistemology.
It's literally a cup. Like I don't.
Right.
See, you can.
It's a cup because it's a cup.
No, but like it's like explaining. How do you explain the word "do"?
No,
Like,
it's not. It's not like that. We're just talking about definition. You make a definition.
Okay,
A person
but-
can make a definition for whatever they want, and
I
so
don't care about opinion of a
What-
definition.
so how are you-
What is the literal definition?
yeah. So
and
you're
then
just going to
ask
appeal to an
someone's
authority, though, right?
No, because things are definitive. Like this is blue. It's a cup.
What
it has
makes a
purple.
social
It's a
construction definitive?
a sometimes cylindrical object that can contain fluids.
I think my
That's
question is
that's
relevant.
that's a very stupid argument because at the end of the day, no, for real, it's trash. No, no disrespect. Well, that was disrespect. I'm sorry.
You think that
sorry.
definitions
Like
are
a cup-
objective?
No, like a cup is a cup. And if
Uh-huh.
you're gonna ask somebody what their opinion of
Yeah,
a
but
cup
what
is,
makes it a
like-
cup?
Someone can't say, "Oh, well, it might be a cat." Like, what is the?
Okay,
to
fine.
Argue, what is the
I'll
definition
tell you
of
what then.
sexism?
I'll tell you
and
what
then
then.
let
If that's
people
true-
give their
if
opinions
that's
based
true-
on their understanding. If they're going based on something that's in the clouds, they don't even have any understanding of. This is a completely waste of a conversation.
Yeah, you have to
Then what
define
makes
terms
then
when
what
you're
makes
going
a
to have a
chair?
discussion.
Then define chair.
I'm not here. We're not discussing chairs. You
Define a
asked her question
chair.
about sexism.
Define a chair.
It's a stupid question.
A chair is literally an inanimate object that you can sit on.
Does it have to have 4 legs?
I mean, a chair can have 4 legs. It can have 3. It depends on the
Can have
structure
Well,
of
what
the
makes
chair.
it what makes it a cushion then, not a chair, or a couch versus
Or
a
a
chair,
Look,
or
I'm not.
whatever?
I'm not a cushion or a chair connoisseur. Okay, pull up the definition of a chair, and then we'll discuss what a chair
but
is.
what I'm saying
Tell
to
me
you,
what the
what makes
confines
the
of the
definition that you
conversation
pull up of the chair an authority on what a chair is? What makes the definition correct?
The inventor, I don't know.
The
Pull
inventor.
Up the guy who originally
So-
invented
so
chairs.
a guy-
And then we'll talk about what he made chairs to
So
be.
you're appealing to an authority, which is fallacious. That's
I'm a
my
woman.
point.
I appeal to authorities.
So you're just a walking fallacy?
No, I'm a woman, so I.
So you're just a walking fallacy? I just always appeal to authority when I
No.
make arguments?
No, there's right and there's wrong. 2 + 2 = 4. You can't just say,
Yes,
oh
but
well,
that's
someone
an objective
feels like
truth.
2 + 2 = 5. It's going to equal 5. No, like you're
Oh,
sitting
man.
here asking questions. It's not a fair. Like you're asking a question. Can someone be sexist to men? Okay, I said yes. She said many things. At the end of the day, bring up the actual definition of what
makes
you,
that the definitive definition, other than appealing to the authority that it is?
Then give your definition.
That's
of
what she was doing. That's what I asked her to do, and you have a problem with it.
No, because it's not there. It's like a waste of a back and forth.
It's not
if
a
there's
waste.
no definitive yes or no. Like if you can't sit down and prove this is where I'm getting my ideology from, this is where I'm getting my standpoint from, then everyone's just sitting here talking about feelings and it's going in circles. It's like, bro, do you get headaches?
Cool. So the word cool. The word cool can mean cold, or it can mean awesome, or it can mean all sorts of different shit
Okay,
other
and
than the
context
word
matters.
cool. Yeah, but not just that. Definitions themselves. If you say, look, I only use this dictionary definition of this thing, fine, we can do that. But what if somebody has a different definition than what the dictionary is? What makes the dictionary
then pull that
right?
up and talk about it. Pull
What
up
makes the
different
dictionary
variations
right?
Pull up the different variations of
You're not
the
answering
actual
my
word.
question. You're just talking.
No, because you're saying what makes that right. Pull up the different variations of the word and then discuss the difference between them.
What makes
You
it?
have
What makes the
to-
dictionary
you need something
definition
to go
correct?
by.
Right.
You're going
You have
in the
to have
clouds right
definition.
A person coming up with their own definition, something to go by. So what makes the dictionary definition
You can't
correct?
say when I'm saying apple, I really mean orange, or you're not going to be able to actually
That's a
have
word
conversations.
concept fallacy. But if you were to say, I call this a laflipidoo, and I call this a doondoodle, and this is the apple, and this is the orange, we still know what we're talking about.
I think what's happening with a lot of the progressive ideology is they're actually redefining terms, and then when they're describing what they are describing as racism or sexism or whatever, they've actually tried to redefine it with their own new invented definition of
That's
what
true.
that is. And I think what
But they
Keisha's
can.
saying is, can you lay out
Yeah.
what your
Show me
definition
how
is
2
so that
+ 2
she can
= 4.
juxtapose
That's
it to
exactly
yours.
what we were doing when I asked her
No,
her
you
definition.
asked-
That's
no,
literally
no,
what
no.
we were doing.
You asked her hers.
Yes.
Keisha's
We're
saying,
asking
can
hers.
you
I'm saying
tell
show
yours?
because
Pull it up and
because
show
we're
her.
going off of her.
He's not understanding it.
No, I'm not only am I
Can
understanding,
you say
I'll still man it.
yours so that we've heard hers?
Why
Can
would
you
my
say yours?
definition mean anything when we're asking a question about her belief?
We absolutely, because you're debating with her, so you should define what sexism is to you. She's defined it what is it to her, and then that would actually explain some of the miscommunications happening.
There's no miscommunication happening. Nobody was confused except you.
Actually, there is miscommunication because I think too
Because
many
you're
of
confused
the
and you're
progressives.
confused, but we were never confused.
Excuse me. Stop.
You're excused.
No, stop.
No, you stop.
The reason is
You're so fucking low IQ, I can barely
no,
talk to you.
here's
You don't
the
even
problem.
know what a definition is.
No,
It's just
here's the actual
insane.
problem. If you were to actually attack it at their definition,
That's
you could
the best
destroy
thing to
their
do.
argument
Yes.
immediately. Yeah,
That's
but the
why I asked her
problem
for the
is-
definition to destroy
The
her
problem
argument.
is you're not actually disputing it with what the correct definition is, and that's what
Yeah.
Keisha's trying to point you and clue
What
you
is
in on.
the correct definition?
Yeah, tell
it up.
her what it
Pull it
is
up.
so she can see that.
up.
What
Okay,
would make
guys,
what would
defining
make that definition correct?
Look, you
Yes, you can be racist and sexist towards white people and men. You can be racist and sexist towards a white man. I concede. My other definition is something that I feel like they teach us in school.
And that's wrong because they're redefining terms. Like racism always meant
There's always been two meanings in the dictionary,
Right.
for both of them, though.
under the true original definition of racism. Absolutely, everyone is capable. You can be racist against a white person. I think the problem is the progressives. They've decided we're just going to now redefine what racism is, and then in their new definition of it, they're excluding white people, and they're saying it has to be because they're turning into the definition saying there has to be a power imbalance. Right, so they're redefining what racism is, and I think that's the point here. Is if you talk about the only true definition of racism is discriminating against somebody based on their race.
Because if you said that, I would have ceded that,
Then
yes,
that
you
is,
can do that.
by definition, racism. Okay, and I think that's the definition we're going off because we're not acknowledging their other. Because what they're actually doing is they're merging together what they believe was originally systemic racism. They've just merged that into just generalized racism.
Well, it's just that the two
literally
words are the same word.
don't
They mean
care
different things.
how they define a thing. I want to know how they define it so that I can get into the argument and destroy the argument. That's why I'm asking for the
So
definition.
you want to cause chaos
when
instead
you
of
that's not
learning.
chaos. That's the
Just
opposite.
educate.
That would be order destroying an argument.
Well,
and
see
replacing it
how
would
when
be
I
order.
defined racism, she was able to concede and say, "Well, yes, white.
Yes,
you
she
can be
can.
racist
She
against
can
white
concede
people."
to your definition, but I would still like to know what she means by institutional racism,
Okay.
how we quantify that, and why we should see to that definition to begin with. I don't even need to give a counter definition in order to go into the worldview. It's called an internal critique. People do it all the time. It's fine to do one. People who have definitions, you can internally critique those definitions. Appealing to a dictionary definition doesn't mean it's the correct
So
definition.
she has to explain her argument. You don't have to.
She
explain
made
yours.
the argument. So yes.
Do you,
Yes.
Do you
So he
believe
doesn't-
That's
he doesn't
right.
have to explain
Do
his
you-
When you
argument.
make an argument, I don't have to. I don't have to do
okay.
anything but
Interesting.
internally critique it because it's your position. Yes, that's right. That's correct.
Do you believe that Reconstruction was done perfectly
What do you mean by Reconstruction?
after the Emancipation Proclamation passed?
Well, and then perfect. What do you mean by perfect?
I'm sorry.
What do you mean by perfect?
When did I say perfect?
You
I'm
said
sorry.
was
You just said
Reconstruction done perfect?
Oh yeah. Was it done in a way so that we currently have no systematic injustice, discrimination, racism against black people?
No, I would say that there might be some.
Okay. So you didn't even obliterate my argument. In fact, you somewhat agreed with it a tiny
No, all I
little
did was
tiny
answer a
bit.
question.
Okay. Well,
So yeah, so there might be some, but that doesn't mean that there's more than there is against any other race. It doesn't mean that there's less or more than there are against whites. It doesn't mean that there's less or more than there are against this or that. All I did was say, sure.
but I said it
can
in the
grant
context
that.
of Reconstruction
And
after slavery. I don't
and
think
there could still be overall
other...
systems, but there could be other factors which lead to other races being more racially profiled, perhaps.
Do you think
or
that any
more
other
systems
race has
against them.
experienced a worse, not cleavage, but historical acts than Black Americans in America?
Yeah.
Native Americans had a pretty
Yeah.
awful time.
Yeah, they did. And I'd say
Yeah, they
that
did.
they're, but besides that, can't you say that definitively then they, in society, experience a general level of inequality that is
Not right
higher than
now.
a white
That's a
person?
different argument. Asking it then and now.
Well, I asked you if you thought Reconstruction was perfect, and
Yeah, but when you said perfect, all you did was say that you would admit that there could possibly be inequalities even now, and I would say, sure, there could be.
is there equalities even
I
now?
don't know. Just name one.
Planned Parenthood targeting black communities.
That would not be an inequality that's done from the government level. That would be an institutional progressive lobbying group
Redlining?
that's doing that. Yeah, well, it would be a progressive lobbying group that's doing that. It's not the government's not forcing blacks to have abortions.
Okay, but we elected. the
Okay,
government.
so
You elected who?
question-
You elected people who
So
force
the
blacks to have
question
abortions, or
is the institutions
Yes,
in the
unfortunately.
government actually targeting specific races? Is that the question?
I think in that particular case, she's asking yes if Planned Parenthood itself. Well, that was her
Or
argument.
any
Yeah.
institution within the United States is targeting specific races of people?
Yeah.
Okay, well the answer is yes. That definitely does happen. That happens with black people. It happens with like I said, racism.
That's what I
and
just said.
sexism
It
can
happens.
happen
It
with-
happens to all sorts of different races. I'm not willing to concede immediately that it happens more to one group than another. That's why I asked for specifics.
Well, I was about to give a specific. I was about to tell you a specific. I'm not, like I said, racism can happen to anybody. But for example, human trafficking, for example, if I think I was doing an interview with someone running for Congress, and they said where 4 children will go missing of brown, white, black background, at least 5,000 indigenous women and children will go missing. And DHS is involved in this, family courts are involved in this, immigration is involved in this, like a bunch of different agencies from the government are actually involved in trafficking minority children. So there is...
We gotta steer clear on this.
Okay, well, there's a lot of... my point is there is a lot of government agencies that do target minorities. White people can get racism as well, but there is government agencies involved in a lot of stuff.
Do you think they target white people by kind of shutting down any argument by basically saying you can't even have a say in this, you're white?
I mean,
isn't
I've
that kind
heard-
of
I've
shutting
heard
down?
people- I've heard
well,
people
how,
do that.
I mean, you're kind of like scoffing, but
Yeah,
if
it's your-
you
you're the
can't,
my
Not
body,
in the
my
government.
choice.
In this conversation, yeah, probably, but
no,
not
but
in the
what I'm
government.
saying is, if you're basically negating somebody's perspective purely based on their race, and they can't even have a perspective on it, isn't that kind of racist?
I never said anyone.
Nobody
do you-
ever
what
said
do you
anyone
mean,
was
not in the
negating
government?
anyone's perspective.
Wait, like, were you not here for all the riots that happened, where the government inside these major metropolitan areas literally cleared their police forces out so that people could riot, loot, destroy, take over whole city blocks, things like that? Pretty fucking institutional, I must say.
But that's not actively discriminating against white
that's
people.
pretty actively
Dick Kennedy
discriminating
donated
against a certain group,
$200.
against by
WHO owned the
emboldening
slaves,
another group to go
traced
and
my
commit
family
violence against
hundreds
them.
of years. We're Irish. We were slaves. Do we have records of who profited/owned slaves in US? Why are all, and only, white people held responsible?
Well, also, you know, when you look at the slave trade too, we were also some of the first to end it. So, and we're always held responsible for that as well.
Well, I also think it's interesting that the generalization to say, you know, we hear a lot of times leftists blaming all white people for this, that, and the other. And the reality is many people, even that live in the United States that are white, their family immigrated here much later than slavery, right? So how would you hold them responsible for things that happen?
I don't think we have to
You know
hold
what I
them
mean?
responsible at all.
They're
And I
just
don't
benefiting from the
think,
institutional
no.
And
power.
how do we
No, and I don't
figure out
disagree. And I don't. And
You
I
know?
don't. I mean, what's it called? And I don't immediately disagree with white people just on the basis that they're white. I don't think that either of those are.
No, I don't think you necessarily. I was just like extrapolating something that happens more generally. So it's basically like, oh, you can't have an opinion because you weren't impacted by it, and that kind of happens with men on certain topics. Like, you don't have a uterus, shut up, or you weren't involved, you weren't a slave, so you don't know what it's like to be affected by racism. As if people who aren't that exact thing, then they can't have an opinion. I think that's what I was talking. I wasn't saying specifically you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I think it's pretty common for. I see what you mean from some communities. Definitely, probably like shutting down white people's opinions, but I think. I don't know. I don't think it's gotten to like a systematic level yet where they're like afraid to express them in public. I guess
know a
maybe
lot of
they
people are kind of
yeah,
afraid to
I
express
know,
things.
but-
They get depersoned if they express the wrong opinion. What do you
Yeah.
mean? They get thrown off of all media. They get completely, I mean, they get debanked. They get, yeah, I would say that there's a pretty institutional drive at this point that's pretty hard to ignore.
I think that's heavier against Christians, though. I think Christians are
I
some
agree
of the
with
most
that, too.
persecuted
So you
people on
think
the
agree with
it's
that.
planet.
you think it's wrong to shut down and oppress other people's opinions?
No, I'm making a point, a specific point
Ironic.
about institutional, about
Because
institutional
he doesn't
power.
think I should have an opinion on who's president.
Oh my God! Don't
Which
you
we all know it's going to be
understand?
Trump. I'm going to be
Like,
voting for Trump.
I don't understand why it's hard for you to make a disassociation
Trump
between
2024.
arguments.
Everybody vote for Trump.
So if you're making a dissociation with an argument, I can hold an argument in my mind
can hold
without
contradictions in your
conceding
mind.
that it's true. I can argue a thing without ceding it's true or false. I can run an internal critique without ever ceding it's true or false. Making the argument that you're wrong is not making the argument that I hold that value. I don't know why you have had a hard time with that all night. There's no performative contradictions to anything that I've said. Me saying that there can be, by her definition, institutional authorities which discriminate against people in no way, shape, or form negates me saying that limiting women's suffrage would be good for society.
That's not what you were talking about just now. You were talking
Yes,
about
it is.
racism. No, you were talking about racism, and you're
I'm
talking
running
about
an
how
internal
it,
critique.
Okay, you weren't even talking about. You're talking about racism and how you think that, you know, isn't it wrong to basically shut down white people, for example, having a say in
That's
a
an
matter that they aren't,
internal
right?
critique. It's an internal critique. It's not me giving any actual, like, here's my opinion, here's what I think on it. It's literally just running
I
a
agree that it's
criticism
wrong
on
to,
her argument.
I think it's wrong. Everyone should have a say in these things and be able to speak on these things. No one should be trying to, you know, say you can't say certain words because we all have freedom of speech, which is in the Constitution, which you don't believe in. But I know, you know, most Americans do believe in that.
The right to free speech. Okay, great. You know, that's a great segue. So you think that there's a right to free speech? Really? You really think that?
We have the Constitution, which has the First
The
Amendment,
piece of paper.
which refrains our government from interfering and infringing on our right to free speech.
Yeah. Are they doing that with Mr. Jones right now, do you think? Or do you think that they're impeding his free speech, his rights?
Alex Jones?
Would you say that the government's impeding his free speech?
I would say, I mean, you'd have to define like what.
The First Amendment.
No. I hear what you're saying. You're talking about a civil lawsuit that happened, right? Which I believe the accusation was it slander or defamation, right? His speech, nobody's came and put a muzzle over his mouth. Like, he technically can say whatever he wants at this point in time. But the thing is if I went out there and I said something about like something not true about the whatever podcast say, I could be liable for that, right? So I can't actually go. So I'm not saying whether what he said was true or not. I'm not making an argument in that the state.
But what I'm saying is that is it an inherent right? Meaning,
Alex
is this
Jones has
something?
First
Is this
Amendment
something?
rights.
Is this
Absolutely.
something which can be taken from you arbitrarily for no reason
No,
given? The
your
answer is
speech-
yes.
Your First Amendment, you have a First Amendment right.
Let's say, okay, so let me try to phrase it the best way I can. Let's assume another country came in and just like butchered all of our men folk. They just gunned them all down with machine guns and left all the women folk and said, none of you bitches got free speech anymore. That's what they said. They're like, none of you bitches, no more free speech ever. Do you have it or not?
No.
No. The right does not exist
You would
absent
have-
enforcement. No right exists absent enforcement. That's the point of my argument. Now, that's actually my argument. Now, right now, you can run an internal critique, and you don't even have to agree or give me a position to run one. Go ahead.
Okay, so your opinion is because at any moment your rights can be taken from you, therefore you don't have rights.
They're not inherent, meaning they don't exist absent the mind. You and I can all agree at the table. We should all have free speech and then act as though we should, and so we will.
So all
until
rights
somebody
are
says,
inherent.
no rights.
No rights are inherent. Okay, so what about free will then? Is that not a right that God gave us?
That's not a right. It's part of your ontology. It's part of your being that you have free will. You're created with this thing. That's different than saying that there's an arbitrary right which you have, the right to own a gun. Or let's take the Second Amendment, right? Or not the Second Amendment, the Third Amendment. So the Second Amendment is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, right? Bam. Third Amendment, we're talking about housing. I believe that is the government can't come in and take over your house during wartime. Okay, they're not allowed to do that. They can do that. And they have done that. And there's not really fucking anything you can do about it. Rights can be suspended. Rights can be given. Rights can be taken away because rights are only as good as the enforcement arm of who gives you the right. The second you make the bold claim, I have these rights, and they're just mine because I was born with them, then you would have to show me where those rights exist
so
absent
then
enforcement.
what gives you the right to be the head of the household?
Enforcement.
Oh, okay. So your rights to be the head of the household aren't because of God commanding it, but because you have the physical brute force
Because
to
ultimately-
subject a woman to
Because
to forced
ultimately
submission.
the overarch in society is going to come down to force. I can say that there's an ontological order that I ought to be the head of the household absent force. That's great for an ought claim. But the truth is, the descriptor is that I'm only ever going to have as much power inside of the household or inside of anywhere as I can enforce. And so are you, and so are you, and you, and you, and you, and everybody.
Enforce or like force? Because like my father never.
Enforce and force are essentially the same dynamic.
Well, I've never, like, my father's never forced me to do anything, but I submit by my own free will. But I see the
Yes.
love of God in him, and he has shown me an example in my everyday life that I can trust him as the leader of
Sure.
our house. And so,
Absolutely.
like women, the first person that they learn to interact with, like to love opposite sex, obviously their father. My father says you have to teach that daughter or your children, you have to show them in your example that you have to trust them and that they're worthy of that respect and that they're valuable to your life.
I guess
So-
I understand what you're saying, but it misses the broader point, which is that if people came into your house to do harm to you, your father protects you from that, right?
Yeah, of course.
Of course. He uses force to do so, right? So all this relationship and everything you have and anything you think you have a right to with your father is really still going to boil down to what can and can't be enforced.
Well,
right
that's
now,
what I say.
society
He shows in his actions that he is a man of God and he is strong and capable and he's going to protect me and provide for me.
Yes,
And
sure.
so I see in that everyday action in my relationship with him that yes, I can trust you as that authority.
Yeah, but this misses the point, though, of enforcement, that your rights, your actual rights, what you consider a right to be, is really only going to come down to how much you can enforce or not enforce that right, period.
That's why
Yeah,
you
but
have to
can
have
only
guns.
enforce
Yes,
if you're showing
great, awesome. That's an actually good argument for me. Yes, that's why you need to have guns, because that helps to equalize force for rights. But it really does always come down to force, and there's no way to get around that. That is a descriptive truth of objective reality. Force is what determines rights. Rights don't exist. They're a construct of the mind. It's great we can agree on things, and we can act as though these things are true, but they're not really true. They're just products of the brain.
Should men be
the Bible
trying?
says-
Should Christian men be trying to follow the ways of Jesus Christ and God?
Yes.
I got to move on.
Yes.
We have
Does God use force?
Yes.
there it is. Okay, okie dokie. These women never had
Remember
their
when he blew up
ideologies.
Sodom and Gomorrah?
But he also gives us free will.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
These women never had